Hello, this is a guide to the Grisaia visual novel trilogy. The first visual novel in this trilogy is Fruit of Grisaia, which is considered to be one of the best visual novels ever made, and is known for its great cast of characters, its comedy, and for some rather dark drama, with its sequels not quite being as well received, but still generally being well regarded. Some might also know it through the anime adaptation, where they squeeze about 70 hours of content into about 4 to 5 hours of anime. As for a quick synopsis of what Fruit of Grisaia is about, well, the main character is a mysterious guy with some kind of military background who recently moved to a new school. So far, pretty standard except the military stuff. However, in this school, there are only 5 other students, all of which are girls, of course. These girls happen to be really goddamn weird, with characters like a fake tsundere, a maid, a perverted nesan, a girl who tries to stab the main character with a box cutter, and this creature. The first part of the visual novel is comedy focused and you get to know the characters better. Later, once you get into the routes, it becomes more story focused and you learn the backstory of why they got so goddamn weird and why they're at a school with a total of 6 students. While this might not sound like the most interesting premise, it is the execution of the comedy, characters, and the story that makes it really shine and stand out. Now that you have a basic gist of what's going on, I want to go through the structure of this trilogy. This I'll do by speaking very broadly, so unless you think of character names or hearing that half the stories exist as spoilers, I won't spoil you. First off is Fruit of Grisaia. While this is the best visual novel, the structure is very plain. There's a common route where you get to know the girls better, and there's a route for each of the girls. Basically the most standard way of making a visual novel. With the Labyrinth of Grisaia, they now went a bit off the rails and started to mix things up a bit more, with the main story here mostly being the backstory of the main character and some talking between the girls, set sometime after the common route with unspecified things having happened. Don't think about it, just accept it and consume content. Then there are after stories for each of the routes. Lastly, there is side stuff, like for instance side stories, which is a bunch of random bullshit non-canon stuff thrown together. There's then also Professor Dave's Masturbation Station, which is a collection of non-canon sex scenes between the main character and anything with a vagina that he hasn't screwed in the main game. We now move on to the last part of this visual novel trilogy, Eden of Grisaia. The main story here picks up after the unspecified things surrounding the backstory of the main character. As for the content of this part, I think it's best described as the harem route. Some people consider it to be the true route, but honestly I think it is just an alternative route. Then there is the after story of this harem route, as well as a prologue for some of the events that happened before the story of Fruit of Grisaia. Lastly, there is another part of Professor Dave's Masturbation Station, so they can be sure that everyone with a vagina has had a H scene with the main character. And I mean everyone. So now that you have a rough idea of what the Grisaia trilogy contains, let's look at the different releases of the Grisaia trilogy. There are 3 main official releases to talk about: the 18+ release on PC, the Steam release, and the Nintendo Switch release. The 18+ release of course comes with the 18+ content, however there is some replacement content like new images and some light fanservice scenes in the after stories meant to replace the 18+ content that is found in other versions and not in this. The 18+ version is available at Denpasoft, Yes USA, Manga Gamer, and Faku. Of these stores, the one I would recommend is Yes USA. Then there is the Steam release, which of course does not have the 18+ content, but has the replacement scenes and images. Lastly is the Switch release, which also does not have the 18 plus content. It is the same as the Steam release, just that it's available at the Nintendo eShop. While I mentioned that these releases lacks the 18 plus content, I guess I should also mention that some of the adult humor, which isn't necessarily 18 plus content, has also been removed from these releases. The after story of the harem route, which mainly consists of 18 plus scenes, has also been removed, which I do think is a pity, even if you don't care for the 18 plus content itself, as there is some stuff at the very end which I think is kind of important. There are also 3 different physical releases of the Grisaia trilogy, one being the Steam release version, which was available through the Kickstarter to localize the Grisaia trilogy a long time ago. The second being the complete box, which has the 18 plus version. This was sold through the backer kit of the Grisaia Phantom Trigger Part 1 Kickstarter, as well as briefly being sold on JList. Lastly, there is the Japanese Nintendo Switch release that has both English and Japanese text, which is the only one currently available. That's it for the official releases, though there are some unofficial releases as well. Some fan-made patches exist that put content from the All Ages edition into the 18 plus edition and vice versa. So yeah, now I think you have most of the knowledge you need to decide whether or not to get into the Grisaia visual novel trilogy. If you liked the video, then maybe give me a like and a subscribe. If not, smash that dislike button.